Join Crush Soda this weekend as they take over the Rotunda at Mall of America during the TIAA 2024 Big Ten Men's Basketball Tournament. Check out the nonstop entertainment Friday through Sunday for a variety of contests and performances. For more info and a chance to win a pair of tickets to the TIAA 2024 Big Ten Men's Basketball Tournament, KFAN.com, keyword contests.
Hey, Nordo, I think what people are afraid of with Kirk leaving is the stability at quarterback position leaving as well. 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, whatever. Kirk's not winning playoffs, Super Bowls. Teams that are have rookies, outside of a few outliers there. People in this town are afraid to take a swing. They're afraid to miss, but that's what we're going to do. Atlanta's soon going to figure out what it's like to have Kirk Cousins. They're going to be stuck in salary cap hell and maybe get a playoff win, and I feel bad for them.
Thanks for all the talkbacks, and we'll be continuing to play more of those throughout 9 to noon. And you just hit that microphone, give us up to your best 30 seconds. Salary cap hell is one way to put it. The spending spree is in part because of bad drafting, but the ability to go on said spree is because of financial freedom that has been attained with a lot of ugliness over the last 18 months, whether it's shedding veterans. I saw this, and maybe as we get into Vikes Bites, you might have this. Vikes Bites brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Go to thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com. Thousand Hills, by the way, Clearwater, Minnesota company. You can learn about regenerative agriculture. You can buy meats. That's where you do. You go to the website, you shop, and you find the meat. But what they're doing is they're taking barbecue pork and barbecue brisket sales, and those proceeds go to support Dinkytown athletes. So keeping the local kids home. That's what Thousand Hills is about outside of terrific product. Maybe you had this in Vikes Bites. I don't know. This is from Jason_OTC, as in over the cap. Jason_OTC on X. Vikings are now the league leader in dead money at $57.3 million for 2024. Packers at number 2 at 46.5. Ooh.
Bakhtiari leaving is going to help that soon, hopefully.
Well, you're going to save $20 million on the cap, but
yes,
but certainly in other ways,
there's still more.
You still have some dead cash. And then the Seahawks are in third at $36 million. So it was it was a perfect transition in some ways from that talk back with the salary cap hell and the good times, bad times that existed with Kirk, where the $28.5 million from Kirk and the 14 and change, almost 15, I think, but we're splitting hairs, I suppose, from Danielle Hunter, moving on, that both of these combined for a fat dead money number in 2024. So the team is going to have to eat that this season. And that's despite, and you've seen that it hasn't inhibited their ability to go on that spending spree and add Grenard and Van Ginkel and Cashman, the XFL kicker, Aaron Jones, and Mr. Darnold. Up to $10 million, by the way. Up to $10 million. I assume it's based on the number of starts, and we hope that that number is not as high as maybe a potential rookie if the Vikings hit a home run on draft night. But the dead money, the great part about this is if you had re-signed Kirk at whatever number, I mean, that 90 is that's massive. But you re-sign Kirk, and you're adding more void years. You're adding more dead money. I understand that the cap has traditionally gone up, save for what? The COVID year, it had to drop a little bit. But you keep pushing these things down the road. You keep making things inflexible. Kirk would end up costing you more, not just in the money you're spending, but the amount of time you're spending on him. And that lessens the flexibility you have to add free agents. Now, best case scenario, at least for me, maybe you think this way too, Charch laid it out. The team's hit basically on 2 of 16 draft picks the last few years. It's unacceptable. It's not good. It is awful. So that has to improve. And as you're drafting more of those individuals, then you're, in some ways, not paying for their future or early accomplishments. And as free agency hits, then you have a decision. You want to let another team pay for those past accomplishments via the big deal in free agency? Maybe you can re-up them. Maybe you can go with that fallacy of a hometown discount, etc. But the dead money now with those two guys that we're experiencing and we're frustrated with in 2024, it's gone. It's gone in 2025. And so getting younger, getting more flexible financially, again, the team has been fantastic at that, as much as it's hurt at times the last 18 months. So good on them. Dead money for now, freedom later. It's the price you pay with some of the deals this team's been strapped with over the last handful of years.
Vikes bites! Here's what I want to talk about, and again, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I just wonder how Vikings fans would be waking up and feeling right now had we been split in that alternate reality where JJ re-signed last offseason and they could have figured something out, because it felt like they were close. That's what the rumor mill was saying, and then suddenly they just decided, well, we're just going to kick the can down the road. And Kirk was on the team at that point. I get it's been said on this station and this show many times that JJ isn't Stephon Diggs. I understand that. But is it a situation where there's fire, there's smoke, and he may be upset? A Florio might tell you that he's going to be upset at the situation, that there's a rookie quarterback, and maybe a PA tells you that he won't be. What do you think you would be feeling if JJ was under contract? Would you be more, or under contract for longer, sign an extension, would you be more okay with maybe taking a swing, or is there a little bit more anxiety now that he's still not and they're still trying to figure that out?
Well, first and foremost, I would feel better if he was under contract, because there would be finality to it.
Yes.
So it's clear, and Kwesi was so adamant about it at the Combine. I have no choice but to trust him in this regard, that trading Justin Jefferson has never entered his mind. You did hear the report that at the beginning of the season, and then Florio's dead on. I'm glad Florio mentioned that. And how do I explain this? Because I'm not trying to rip Schefter. I respect the hell out of Schefter. But in the end, they are used as mouthpieces for agents. They're used as mouthpieces for teams at certain points. And News that just didn't fall out of his pocket like he'd been holding on to that for 6 months. At some point, he got a text, go with it. Was it the team that wanted that out there? So now any team that's interested in trading for him, or maybe that any super sneaky conversations that the agent is having with other teams, man, it'd be cool is, why don't you Bengals reach out to Kwesi and the Vikings, and maybe T. Higgins comes up to Minnesota and JJ gets to go down to hang out with Jamar Chase and run it back LSU style with Cool Joe. Ooh! You can have those sneaky conversations, and I'm sure they exist and do happen. Or is it maybe his representation? Just kind of, the expectations in the end here is, to Florio's point, and he is correct. And some of we hate the gloom of Florio, but a lot of times he is right. And the expectations that have been set or not set by this team have left a lot of us in limbo. So I would 100% feel better if he was already under contract. Now, with that said, you know how bad it sounds on the front end? If he was going to get paid $30 million a year and he said no. Well, now JJ's greedy. Now JJ needs to be traded. And so there's going to be instantly some negativity attached to that. Now, what do we not know about the deal? Similar to what we didn't know immediately about Kirk's deal. What is the guaranteed? I happen to believe that the Vikings are open to guaranteeing Justin Jefferson a ton of cash. I would actually say that I think they were much more open to guaranteeing JJ cash than they were the now former quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, which ultimately possibly led to him going to Atlanta and not getting a deal here in Minnesota. So is there a guaranteed contract, a guaranteed part of the dollars? Is that an issue? Is it the term? Does he want 6 years? And I don't know. It's just there are $200 million out there. And just the numbers, these are all hypothetical, not real. But $30 million a year wasn't good enough. Is it because of that number? Is it because of the amount of those years in totality being guaranteed? We have no idea. So I'm not hitting the panic button on it per se, but I would feel a heck of a lot better. And in the end, I still do believe, if the dollars are right, that JJ will re-sign. and that this Kirk that Kirk leaving, as we've talked about several times already, that I don't believe that's the hinging point. JJ wants to win games. JJ wants stats. You're in the name Sam Darnold. We talked about it yesterday. Ooh, makes it's a shiver up your spine, and it's not. Yeah. And it's not a positive one. So, but I do still believe that if the dollars are right, that JJ is going to be here. But naturally, I'm not trying to. The question's good, and the talker is prescient. Yes, definitely. If he's signed at this particular moment, then we're not talking about Justin. We're just hoping he's having a cool off season. We're hoping at some point he's going and working out somewhere. Maybe we'll see a little report. Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson get together for an off-season workout in advance of 2024. Unlikely to happen, but we wouldn't be worried about it. That much is for sure.
Vikes Bites.
Got time for one more here?
Yeah, let's keep the party moving.
I know you say you don't want to split hairs on quarterbacks, whether it be Mariota, whoever. But here we go. We're going to split hairs on quarterbacks. Would you rather have gotten Sam Darnold for 1 year?
Okay.
Or Joe Flacco for 1 year? Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's, again, I can't split hairs on that. It was cool what happened in Cleveland for 6 games?
Yeah.
That's all it was. 6 games. He, by the way, has already stated multiple times he wants to go back to Cleveland. So the fact that he's not here, or it wasn't an option, or it wasn't a possibility.
Well, they just got Jameis, so
it's not,
he's the third quarterback there.
So they got all kinds of things going on.
Yeah.
And so Darnold versus Flacco, I'm going to take Darnold every time. It was cool what happened. It probably wasn't cool if you're a Browns fan watching him throw 2 pick sixes in the wild card game. A year ago, a lot of it's hindsight, where Dobbs blows up for the Vikings against Atlanta, has a good half against the Saints, and speaking of Jameis, who threw the game away literally with a couple of late picks after things just went completely impotent offensively with Dobbs and the Vikings. Meanwhile, you see Flacco doing his thing and keeping that train rolling in Cleveland. Well, why the hell didn't they have Flacco? How did Dobbs come about? I get all that. Flacco versus a guy that's 12 years, maybe 13 years younger than Flacco, and probably similar money. I'm going to take the younger kid. Still, again, and now the regime has to make good on it. They've put themselves in the corner. They got to fight their way out. And the way they fight their way out is finding that right guy on Thursday night in April. But the plan as it exists in this moment is that neither of those individuals, Sam Darnold nor Flacco, those aren't the long-term options for the purple. So Flacco, cool dude. Had him on 9 to noon a couple of times, Super Bowl stories style. Seems like a great dude, has 5 or 6 kids, family guy, rolls off the couch and wins a bunch of games for the Browns. It's a cool story. But no, I would take Darnold each and every time.
Vikes Bites.
What's the situation with Dalton Risner, and how, in your mind, does the O-line shape up? It feels like a revolving door right now of signing people and moving people around the line. Do you see the Risner situation being solved anytime soon?
I'm worried about the Dalton Risner situation. And I think fans should be as well. Not even necessarily about specifically Dalton Risner. But those of you out there, whether you're glued to NFL Network or you're following Pro Football Talk or just absolutely just hashtag doom scrolling on social media looking for updates, you're not getting it's a lot of crickets. It's a lot of crickets on the offensive line front. If you're a Vikings fan, everybody else is watching these guys fly off the shelf, and not for cheap. I mean, you want to talk about gouge, disaster pricing. Okay, when you're rolling in for a bottle of water and suddenly it's $9, that's what a left guard is going for in the NFL right now, is $351 million, $480. I mean, these are massive numbers. I think it was Robert Hunt who just got $100 million deal or something close to it. He was plucked from the Falcons or from the Dolphins. Dolphins fans are miserable about it right now. They can't keep anybody. Xavier Howard's out, most likely. Christian Wilkins goes to the Raiders. We get Van Ginkel. They can't even keep a guard. The Dolphins fans are a little sour right now. Meanwhile, the guy even that the Vikings traded because Reisner supplanted him at that spot, Ezra Cleveland, he kind of set the floor at 3-29 and about, I think it was 14.5 or 15 guaranteed. So about half of his contract guaranteed. So that means at least through, I'd say, 2025, he's going to be the guard of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, if that's the floor, now you're looking at, is it 3 and 10 or 12 apiece? 3 and 15 apiece? And instead of 15 guaranteed, is it 20 to 25 guaranteed? I saw this tweet from Dalton Reisner himself. Just in case anyone was wondering, from Dalton Reisner on Twitter, this is what he says. Just in case anyone was wondering, I've started 73 games over 5 years in the league, missing only 4 games due to injury, earning the starting spot amongst 3 different coaching staffs. I've never asked for a bag, simply just a starting guard contract. Nothing he said in there is unreasonable. Nothing he said in there was wrong. Well, what's a starting guard contract? Again, Ezra Cleveland in some ways set the floor. So 3 and 15 apiece. So 3 and 45 with at least 20, maybe 25 of that guaranteed. You cool with that? That means at least for the next 2 years, he's your left guard. Now, in the next year, and among all of this, Andrew Thomas from the Giants a year ago gets a 5-year, $120 million deal at tackle. What's Christian Darrisaw going to cost? Your right tackle and Brian O'Neill, maybe restructure some cash. I don't know even what the term is left on his deal. But you have a situation now where he tore his Achilles. I think it was a Darnell Savage pick 6 at Lambeau. And Brian O'Neill tore his Achilles trying to cover and hopefully stop him from getting into the end zone. He did not stop him, and his 2023 was impacted mightily because of it. Then he's inactive for 3 of the final 4 games. And I love Brian O'Neill, but it's something to watch. But the money thing with Christian Darrisaw comes into play, and then Garrett Bradbury, a year or 2 left, $5 million apiece. That's pretty reasonable given what you're getting out of that spot at this particular point. So just figuring out all of the money. Again, this is all that financial freedom that you're getting. Dead money now, freedom next year. It's pretty easy to spend cash. Like we got a credit card right now.
Vikes bites.
But I would love to have Reisner back. I just don't know. Once all of this stuff happens and 3 p.m. hits and over the next couple of days, we get a much clearer picture of what these contracts are, the structures, and what this actually makes 2024 look like money-wise. I mean, we could be down to bare bones. Still got a Harrison Smith thing to think about here. You could free up 11 if you release him. Will there be some sort of deal cut like there was last year? So there are places to maybe find some cash. We need Dalton Reisner. The Blake Brandel thing at left guard, not excited about it. Not interested in that at all. Also not interested in having to now. Okay, so we already have pinned ourselves in a spot where let's go large. Let's take a swing on a QB. We also have to make sure that we get potentially a starting caliber left guard in the draft. Okay. Or we're picking off the bottom of the heap after all the good ones have been taken, and we pay a guy a year and $2 million to have him come in. I mean, none of that sounds good. Dalton Reisner sounds good to me. I just honestly don't know if they can afford him at this particular moment. And I think if it's, let's say it's 3 and 45 and it's 20 or 25 guaranteed, I wouldn't be that completely is reasonable and makes sense for Dalton Reisner for any team. I hope it's ours.
Vikes Bites.
Speaking of situations that need to be solved, will Knoxville, Tennessee's own Harrison Smith be a Viking by the start of the season?
Yeah, I don't know. I could flip a coin either way in terms of how it'll turn out. I love Harrison Smith. It wasn't great at the end of last year at times. Specifically, you can look at like the Bears game. What happened on that, was it 3rd and 10? And Fields rolls out, can't find anybody, and then suddenly DJ Moore, the Red Sea parts, and there he is in the middle of the freaking field. We dealt with that with Donatel. I thought that was over. that looked like a Hitman issue. And there were a couple of other big spot plays in the mix. Love Hitman. Love what he brings to the locker room. Love the totality of his career with the Minnesota Vikings. Absolutely can't be here for $19 million, though. That's the thing. So, and I thought in some ways Ben Gessling yesterday, he did a really good job kind of painting up the, sounds weird to call him mysterious, but in some ways, how do you know where Hitman really stands on any of this? He goes out, he puts his all in, has since he was drafted. I think he has been open and honest about the idea. Like he's probably not interested in a full strip down to the studs rebuild. He'd like to win, but he also loves it in Minnesota. But he also strikes me as the guy that could just come out. He could tweet in an hour or send an email into the offices in Egan and just say, "Hey, can you guys send this out? I think I'm done. So you guys can release me. I think that's it." And he just go fly planes and raise his kids and stuff. I don't know. He's one of the coolest Vikings that I've ever encountered. Harrison Smith is unbelievable, but I have absolutely no pulse and no temperature on where he sits with any of that. But I do know that the 19 million-ish, 20-ish, whatever that cap number is, that can't be a thing that the Vikings carry in 2023. So something absolutely has to be done. If I flipped a coin, I think we may have seen the last of Harrison Smith in a Vikings uniform. And I absolutely hope I'm wrong. But I think that's where this is headed.
Vikes Bites.
Which of the defensive pickups the Vikings have made in free agency, which one will be the most impactful this next season?
Say it again.
Out of the defensive pickups the Vikings have made this free agency.
Grenard. Yeah, I think Grenard is going to get the most reps. I think the goal for him is that he is now your premier pass rusher. He is taking that Daniil spot, painting by numbers in some ways. I really like Cashman. Cashman's going to provide a little more speed than we got out of Hicks at the linebacker spot. But in the end, I think you're looking at, well, now, well, you got me thinking about it a little bit. So I think Van Ginkel is a massive upgrade even over what DJ Wanham gave the team when fully healthy last year. So if you're looking at it in the context of, I think the team did not get better than a full go Daniil with Grenard. I would prefer Daniil over Jonathan Grenard. Overall game, everything included. But I think Van Ginkel is a massive upgrade over DJ Wanham. So I think in the end, Grenard's going to have the heaviest stats. But I think in terms of pop, if we're looking in the context of who they're replacing, man, Van Ginkel, so damn good. Sneaky good. And not somebody, I don't want to say he's an afterthought, but even when the Vikings were in Miami recently, I wasn't thinking about Van Ginkel. Should have been thinking about Van Ginkel. Yeah, I'll say Grenard. I like that, but I like all three, and really just still so unpredictable with how they'll ultimately be deployed with Brian Flores. But going back, Harrison Smith not in the mix. Now you gotta get used to the idea of Josh Metellus and Cam Bynum. Those would be your starting safeties. So maybe Josh Metellus isn't as position flexible. He isn't moved around the board as much as he would be if Hitman was still here. If Hitman's back, then that's maybe a different conversation. Yeah, I'll say Grenard.
Vikes Bites.
Thank you for doing Vikes Bites, by the way. So we're gonna come back. Got some texts and some talkbacks to get to, and then more news, non-Viking specific news to end the hour before Alec Lewis jumps in studio with me from The Athletic. It's Nordo in for PA. You're listening to 9 to Noon.
The renowned rock band Weezer is bringing their Voyage to the Blue Planet tour to Minnesota Wednesday, September 4th at the XL Energy Center. Don't miss out as they play all the hits, including the Blue Album in full with special guest Flaming Lips, Dinosaur Jr. Tickets go on sale this Friday, 10 a.m., but you can head over now, KFAN.com, keyword calendar for more information.
I'm with you, Nordo. I've been telling people the same thing. This roster is not ready to compete with the Packers or the Lions. And if we sign Kirk, we're going to have less money to do that. We have to hit on our draft picks. Next thing you know, we're 2-3 years, we're ready to compete, and Kirk's ready to leave again. So I'm glad we're just getting ahead of the curve and addressing the situation now. And let's hope for the best. Let's go.
Yeah, get in ahead of it. And again, it's been this revolving. I'm not mad at anybody that's fearful of the situation ahead, though, because it is the unknown, and ultimately you have to be right. That's the key to all of this. You have to be right on draft night. So just kind of keep that in your heads. This is all cool. Man, Jonathan Grenard, this is awesome. Quick twitch. Part of it, what goes into this conversation with Grenard as well is he's more than 3 years younger than Daniil, getting younger, getting more flexible monetarily. Van Ginkel, built for the North, obviously. And then Cashman, and you go through those things. Maybe get it's got to be on Kevin O'Connell's to-do list, specifically if you're going to go to this rookie in 2024 and beyond. This run game, I mean, come on. All the negative plays, all the inefficiencies on third down at times. I mean, yeah, I wish I could be wordier about it. Come on, with this run game. It's ridiculous. I did get a text message, 64686. What are we going to do with Cam Akers and a number 3 receiver? Is Osborne still on the team, or do we make a move and trade for a guy like Mike Williams? Oh, Mike Williams of the Chargers. I didn't know he was potentially available. But the team did re-up that. I guess if there's any new news, it's not necessarily life-changing or flashy or splashy, but the team did jump into a one-year re-sign for Brandon Powell. And the way that I see it, I mentioned it a bit yesterday or potentially Monday when I heard KJ Osborne talking as they were cleaning out their lockers, and he talked a bit about, and again, it's cool. Like if you don't make it personal and you appreciate who these guys are and what they're trying to accomplish in their careers, you can kind of understand, KJ had some great moments here. I think a 7-touchdown season, a 5 TD season, and he was super clutch in big spots like KJ Osborne. But he even said it himself, the free agency period for him is where he can potentially change his life, change his family's life. I think it was almost a quote in terms of a contract. And he's not going to get that here. And so I think KJ's gone. I think Brandon Powell then becomes your third wide receiver option. And I'm the idiot. I don't have the roster in front of me. This team has like 8 wide receivers on the roster in some sort, some way. And I don't have the names of most of them. Of course, we do know JJ. We do know Addison. Now we know Brandon Powell. So how that shapes out at the bottom end of it, I think you ultimately do have to make a concession on the doorstep of signing Justin Jefferson to a massive contract. The idea of keeping him, Addison, and KJ Osborne, who will garner a nicer contract from another team, and trying to beat that deal. In some ways, that's why, and some of these players that we've fallen in love with, part of the reason we're in such financial destitution and trying to get our way out of it is because we have fallen in love with our draft picks. And we've done everything that we possibly can to keep them in-house. And that goes back to, again, the drafting. I'm going to hammer on that until a regime of some sort just absolutely kicks ass in a draft. And I don't mean a player here, there, and everywhere every couple of years, a few badasses over the course of a decade. I mean you ace a draft. Because we've been so bad at that, we have had to overpay to keep some of our guys that we love. And in the end, we're talking about void years. We're kicking out Harrison Smith onto the street because we can't afford the $20 million. Did the same for Adam Thielen. Maybe we got out the right time on Adam. I don't know. He looked pretty damn good at times down in Carolina last year. But all the same, we've had to do that because of some of those decisions and keeping guys around. I did get this email. I got to find it here. JJ for picks 1 and 9. This is from Chris. I know it's the same division, but hear me out. I wonder if this is Kwesi said in this email. Kwesi's all about trading in the division. So what does Chris have to say about this? Picks 1 and 9 for JJ. JJ requires too much money for a receiver. This is a receiver-rich draft. See, I knew it would happen. As soon as you heard about him turning down that 30 a year, gotta go, right? JJ's worth 2 first-rounders. They would be getting him for a first-round pick. We would get pick 1 and get our QB at 9, or even keep 11 to get the best player available. Chicago gets JJ and has the money to pay him. They can still likely get a top 4 QB. I don't know how they could. I don't know. I don't know where their other draft picks are. 1 and 9. They get rid of those. I don't know how they're getting a top 4 QB, but all the same. They still have Fields as an option. I appreciate the email from Chris. How painful would that be? Now, I love the idea. Again, even if I would not do that, I guess is what I'll say. And maybe the same way I talked about not getting personal with some of this stuff, maybe I need to stop being an emotional rube and look past the idea of Justin Jefferson terrorizing the Minnesota Vikings twice a year for the next half decade. And frankly, it doesn't matter if it's Justin Fields, if it's Bo Nix, if it's Spencer Rattler. Maybe it matters if it's Rattler. But for the most part, it won't matter. He's going to get his, and he's going to shove it in our faces twice a year. Now, if we use picks 1 and 9, and we get beloved Caleb, or Jaden Daniels, or Drake May, or J.J. McCarthy, you know the names, maybe it's worth it. And then we get some high-end defensive player in the mix as well. Because the one thing, as we continue on, and whether it's Vikes Bites, free agency, the market officially opens at 3. So all of these agreed to terms situations can become official starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. The one thing we haven't talked about a lot, who on earth is going to be our defensive tackle? We need another fat guy in the middle. Big time. And there's a couple good ones in the draft, but that is quite worrisome. As you hear, he played in 9 games, and he definitely, Packers fans had to have been laughing at us when we took Dean Lowry. You as lifelong Packers fan, Brett?
Yes.
Did you chuckle a little bit?
Well, yeah, because it's par for the course. It's you take our guys and
take the smugness out of the mix for a little bit. I know. Things.
You asked me if I laughed at the Vikings. Why do you want me to answer that?
So rude about it. We're just trying to win games.
I get it.
Dean Lowry is a great example, and I hope Aaron Jones is not this, but I mentioned to you.
I think he's got a good chance to be good.
That's the thing.
Which sucks for me.
You know, Greg Jennings, cup of coffee here. It was pretty clear at one point, actually. I don't think Greg Jennings just wanted to be here, and maybe he was just annoyed with the inconvenience of playing professional football at times. But we've had some former Packers come here before, and they all had their best games against the Vikings. Dean Lowry had probably, if you look at his game log, some of his best games in his NFL career just happened to be against the Purple. Is that why we decided to make the move we did? He obviously did not. It did not pan out. Kairos Tonga coming into the season, it was the idea that he was going to start. Well, that lasted about 5 snaps, and that wasn't going to work.
Zadarius.
Well, Zadarius was good for half the season. Yep. And then he became...
Then he was gone.
See, I don't know if he was a malcontent, if he got hurt. The whole thing with Z, because when Z's on, Z's a monster.
Yeah.
Unbelievable dude. And they just, and despite maybe some lackluster production at times in Cleveland, I think the Browns just re-upped him, didn't they? They're keeping Zadarius Smith, I believe. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm pretty sure the Browns are keeping him in Cleveland. But it was 10.5 sacks, and then I think he gets a knee bonk.
Yeah, there you
Buffalo
go.
game. And it was nothing from there on out. Even I don't think he traveled with the team to Chicago for the finale before they would ultimately lose to the San Francisco Giants. So, yeah, bad running. It overall, more misses than hits in terms of taking cast-offs from the nasty neighbor to the east and putting them in purple and hoping something will come out of it to any big extent. To the text line, looks like Isaac was listening to Florio. Fatal flaw in Florio's argument of the Wilfs being happy with just being good enough is the initial Kirk signing. How is going after a top free agent QB and giving him the only fully guaranteed contract in league history not going all in? Florio still rocks, though. Isaac. Yeah, it's a good point. I've never gotten the impression. I'm not sitting in Mark's office. I remember it used to be talked about years ago that Ziggy would drive the loop, the Metro Highway loop, after a Vikings game or a loss, and it hit him hard. I've never been on one of those rides with Ziggy, but I've never gotten the impression that this ownership group has been anything but thinking about how in the hell they can hoist Lombardis. And that move at the time was the essence of taking a swing. We have everything in place. At the time, you got to think back a couple of years, Vikings fans, but at one time you loved Mike Zimmer. In 2017, best defense in the NFL. They find their way to Philly via a miracle, get their butts kicked, and they did all that with Case Keenum. And unfortunately, clock struck midnight, carriage turned back into a pumpkin. But 2018 was the year. 2018 was the year because they were opening the new Palace down in Eagan as well. Everything was falling into place. We absolutely need this. Defense stays the same. We get over the top with Kirk Cousins. It was a huge swing at the time. 3-84. I mean, that's average now. Baker Mayfield wouldn't take that deal, it sounds like. But at the time, it was massive. And even, you know what, 3-84, he took a deal that was less than what the Jets offered him. They offered him 3-90. So all you out there that says Kirk he only cares about the money, how about that? Took $6 million off the top, decided to come to Minnesota. That's a big swing. And now they're in position to take a big swing again because the risk here with the Wilfs, they can keep cashing those TV checks every spring, and they can keep hitting you up in emails. Re-up your season tickets, fans. Well, they're taking a massive risk, right? Because you're probably a season ticket holder. You're going to get an email saying, "Hey, get ready for 2024." And the QB on the roster, Sam Darnold. Well, that's not very exciting. But you're going to re-up, and they're going to take a swing. And the belief is that they're going to come out of that draft with one of those top 4 QBs. And this team in the long term is going to be better for it. The alternative is they found a way to keep Kirk. The team is on the cusp of the NFC playoffs in a league that has a dearth of quarterback play that is considered elite. That's the alternative. Go 8-9. Battle for a spot. Go 9-8. Chance to lose a wild card game. Or you go all in, again, to the unknown, and you find somebody in late April that in a couple of years gets you in that spot. They win that game. They're actually not even in a 4th and 8 situation to keep the season alive, to check down to TJ Hawkinson because they've run away with that game because of the financial freedom to bolster the defense, because of the high-end ability at QB from a young stud on a young deal. So that's where they're at. I have total belief in the Wilfs making moves, and allowing, by the way, the regime has to sell this to the ownership group. So the Wilfs are on board with them taking that swing. I'm on board with them taking that swing as well. Let's transition to news. Wolves, massive comeback victory against the Clips. Wild can't lose, 4-0-1. Is there still hope? I'll ask Brett about that next segment. News to Nord, some NFL wide bits as well. You're listening to The Fan.
Head over to KFAN.com, keyword contest. Enter for your chance to win a pair of tickets to be there when the MSHSL Girls Basketball Tournament takes the court March 13th through the 16th at Williams Arena. And don't forget, you can watch all the action on 45 TV, the official home of the MSHSL tournaments.
News to Nord brought to you by Canterbury's Card Casino, the casino at Canterbury Park. Hope you all were yelling, bingo! Last night. They have bingo on Tuesdays. That's why I did that. It was obnoxious, and I apologize. But Canterbury Park is awesome, and it's poker, blackjack, table games, feeling the felt all year long, and you can go to canterburypark.com to find out, like, hey, when's live racing? I think it's mid-May. Check it out, canterburypark.com. Where are we headed to first, Brent?
Well, where do you think?
Number 1.
Your Minnesota Wild's where we start, of course. The Wild beat the Coyotes last night 4-1, including these 2 goals from Kirill Kaprizov.
Faber gets it back, left wing Sop. Up top, Kaprizov covering at the point, fakes a shot, walks in, wristing one. They score! Kaprizov from the left circle, let it fly. And 6:29 into the opening period, the Wild have a 1-0. From Middleton to Kaprizov to the empty net. He scores! Stay hot! Kirill Kaprizov into the empty net with 2:32 to go. He makes it 3-1 in favor of Minnesota.
So 2 goals and a beautiful assist setting up Hartman for essentially an empty net goal. 3-point games. You accused me of reading off Russo tweets last time I did this. I'm going to continue to read off Russo tweets.
That's fine.
3-point games in Minnesota Wild history. Mikko Koivu had 34 in 1,028 games. Marin Gabrick had 29 in 502 games. Kirill Kaprizov, 29 in 262 games. He is on record pace, and in no time he will be the franchise point leader in not a lot of games. Kirill Kaprizov, always good for the program when he's scoring. We love that. Might be too little too late, but it's fun to win hockey games.
Is it too little too late? They're 6 points back. And what's weird, and just, full disclosure, I'm not watching all the Vegas Golden Knights games, but they've been awful over the last few weeks. I do know that. So they're dropping down the charts. 6 points out of a spot. You get 16 games to go, I think. Ducks a couple of times. The Blues are falling out of it. Where are we at in terms from the hope meter?
Well, here's what I'll say about this. I think the worst possible scenario for the Wild is they try to make that playoff spot, and they come 2 points short, and now you've blown your chance at the lottery, and you don't get into the playoffs, so you don't even get that fun. In my opinion, I think it's less than 10% chance, if maybe less than 5. They've got to go.
So you're saying they should tank?
I'm saying they should tank responsibly, as Barrera would say. I'm saying I want to see what Beckman can do not on the bottom line. I want to see what Hustadinov can do not on the bottom line.
So you want some professional losses. You want some professional losses.
I'm saying if we play the kids and they win, then that's great. And if we play the kids and they lose, that's also great. That's what I'm saying. I just want to see. We know what Foligno is. We know what Hartman is, and Johansson and Gaudreau. We know what they are already. And the Wild are 0 for a lifetime this year against the top 3 in the Central. So even if they make the playoffs, I'd argue that they're likely to get crushed. I want them to. I just think the shortest path from here to a Stanley Cup is to see what we've got and start playing some prospect, because I don't think the depth scoring is there. We're happy that Hartman and Foligno got on the board last night, but
you don't sound happy. You sound bitter.
We're happy about it.
I feel like I'm talking to Charch again about Kirk. Oh my goodness, how sad are you? You wish the team lost 4-1 last night.
No. Kirill Kaprizov lighting it up is always good for the program. Always.
All right.
But I would just like to see a little more help for the kid for the thrill, in my opinion.
Well, were you at least happy with the hoop squad last night?
Perfect.
Number 2.
I was, because the Wolves came back 22 down against the Clippers. Ant led the way, dropping 37 points. And then a little Conley Jr. tree ball.
Jordan McLaughlin with a rebound. Wolves are up 8, 91-83. Left side 3. Conley again. He's feeling it tonight. His 5th 3-ball.
We love that.
The story of last night's game as part of the comeback, Anthony Edwards. So that's the headliner. It's like Kaprizov and the hockey team. But I don't know. Like you say, you know what Foligno is, what Hartman is. Well, they definitely are appearing not to be what they were a few years ago when they had career highs, and then we got excited and re-signed them, and now they haven't been that way since. That's on the hockey side. But I, in some ways, haven't known what Mike Conley is. So I'm glad, actually, you picked that highlight, because Conley, and now trying to find out who's taking shots, who's doing things in absence of Karl Anthony Towns. Good to have Gobert back in the mix last night. Kyle Anderson, slow-mo, the nickname is fitting, but he's going to be that guy like 10-7-5. He's going to have kind of that potpourri game where he's doing a little bit of everything, and he was doing it last night. But Getting Conley 5 triples last night and his best scoring performance and shooting performance in weeks. That's massive for this team. And him being an option, him being somebody, this is a lot higher end version, I think, even at his age than it was when Ricky was here. But if you remember, you talk about Ricky Rubio, like you need the threat of scoring. You need to believe that Ricky is going to find a little bit of arc on those shots from deep, and that there's actually a chance that he'll hit one once in a while. It doesn't, it's like, is this 4 on 5? Those were topics when Ricky was here, and we all had to change our faces. But with Conley, like the game he had last night was sweet. Shooting off the bench, it was not T.J. Warren. Okay night, kind of in mop-up with Naz Reid. Jordan McLaughlin doing his thing off the bench. Nickeil Alexander-Walker shooting off the bench. 9 of 10 and 5 triples himself. Massive night for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And those are kind of the stories that I pick out of last night. Of course, it's Ant's show, and we're all in awe at all times, and maybe we should be. Next up, though, it's kind of cool. Starting, I think it's Saturday. Is it Saturday into Monday? I believe the Wolves are doing 2 at the Utah Jazz.
Correct.
So we're going to get to see what that operation looks like. Rudy v. Walker Kessler. That's going to be fun. And Rudy's going to absolutely dominate, the second-year kid with all the blocks that I fell in love with a year ago and that made the Rudy trade look so awful. And now the trade doesn't look as bad as it was. We know all that's gone. Looking forward to that. Get a couple of wins there. If you're chasing numbers in the standings, Wolves are now just a half game out of the top spot once again, behind both Denver and the Thunder. And that's going to feel how this thing goes. You're going to see we're going to lose one night. One of those teams is going to win. We're down a half game. We're going to win. Those teams lose. We're up half a game. That feels like what the degree of separation is going to be moving forward. Big win versus the Clippers to push that thing to 3.5 games. That they are out of the top spot, a 3-game advantage for the Timberwolves in the standings. So they're firmly in third with just a hair away from first. So that's super cool. Here's what we'll do is, I know you put together some NFL wide bits, but Alec Lewis of The Athletic's going to be in studio. Maybe we touch on some of those throughout the final hour because it all mixes in to The Athletic's coverage of the Minnesota Vikings in the negotiating period and free agency, along with other things that have impacted Kwesi's spending spree. But we're going to get into all of that. Alec Lewis in studio with me next. Final hour ahead. It's Nordo in for PA, 9 to noon on the Fan.